guys, it is Tuesday, week of Thanksgiving. Busy week. I wanted to pop in because I was requested to do a tag video by Herlonda. And there are 3 tag questions with this, and I wanted to go ahead and answer because I, of course, have an opinion. It's in regards to being a silicone mommy or silicone doll owner. So the first question that Herlonda was asking, and it was out of her curiosity, she's curious because she's never owned a silicone, and a lot of people that have never owned a silicone tend to wonder these questions, I think. So first question is, how do you drop that amount of money on one single doll? So being an owner of many, I'm talking many dolls that have come in and out of this nursery, I actually am probably going to be just flat honest with you. I don't really know. I think for me, because I've been collecting for many years, it was a succession of increased amounts. So the way it works in my nursery is that I have a very small number of high-end dolls. That's how it works for me. I don't have endless amounts of money. And back years ago, when I collected my first reborn, is what I would put that in quotes, by the way, air quotes, reborn, because it was when reborns had barely just hit the market, and they were really not reborn. They literally had glued on wigs, they had some blushing, and called it good, and some weight in them. So back when I purchased my first doll, it was like $100, and to me it was like that was a huge amount of money to buy a doll with. And I'm talking, this is back when, geez, I want to say like 15, 16 years ago. So for me, that was a lot. And then it progressed, and reborns actually were more of a work of art. And then initially, after that $100 investment, I would then buy another one a little bit more expensive. And then I got to the point where I would sell one and buy another one and invest a little bit more with it. So I've been really very fortunate that I haven't lost a huge amount of money when I've sold my dolls. I've lost some here and there, depending on the doll. That wasn't due to not being able to sell a doll. It was usually due to a defect with the doll, so I had to take a loss on it. But for the most part, like when I resell reborns, and I've resold on most of my dolls, I've been able to obtain about the same amount, and some I've actually made a profit on, depending on how badly someone wanted to buy the doll. So generally, I sell one to buy a new one. So I sell one, add more money, and then voila, you've bought a more expensive doll each time. So then when silicones came out, the price amounts for reborns were getting pretty high for certain ones. And because I'm looking for ultra realistic, I would buy very expensive reborn dolls. And at the time, very expensive was over $1,000. At least to me it was. And since then, they've gone up to, you can spend $4,000 easily on a really well done reborn, or that's, the jury's out on that. Maybe it's not as well done as you would hope. But in general, you can spend thousands on a reborn. Most people don't, because they don't generally think that they're worth investing that amount of money in. But on the flip side, when silicones came out, they started around, I don't know, I started buying Claire's silicones when she started way back when, like early on in her silicone career. So I've always been a Claire Taylor fan. One of my good doll friends from the Doll Fan Forum got me involved with Claire and introduced me to her work. So from the early onset of Claire's babies, I've had a lot of her dolls. I think, let's see, the first doll I think I purchased from Claire was, I want to say Janine, or it was Mommy's Tiny Little Blessing. I can't remember which came first, but I've had both. And then Amelia. And then it progressed to others. So I've had a lot of Claire's dolls over the years. And so her prices started around, I want to say like $1,500 when she was doing cloth bodied back in the day. Don't quote me because I'm not 100% sure. But for me, that was like, okay, I just spent $1,000 on a reborn. I'm going to try the silicone, even though I was definitely afraid to invest in silicone. But then after learning how durable, especially how durable Claire's babies are, I learned that they weren't anything to be afraid of as long as you handled them properly and treated them well. So for me, the answer is I've drawn it out. I'm sorry, I ramble a bit and I kind of get into an explanation on my answers, but it's a succession of growing amounts that you invest in dolls over a period of years. So this doesn't happen overnight. It's not like one day I woke up and said, hey, I'm going to invest $6,000 in a doll. But it grew over time. And like I said, each time I sold a doll to purchase a new one, or even maybe sold a couple of dolls to purchase one new one, that was my larger investment in the next doll up. And so that's how it grew. And the same thing happened with silicones, because then full bodies came on the market, and 1500 went to 2000, and 2000 went to 2500, and then the first full body silicone I invested in was like $3,600 or $3,400, something like that. So it was sell to buy. That's how I've been able to afford it. I am by no means made of money. I work a normal job. I have a household. I don't buy dolls that would affect, I don't buy dolls if it's going to affect me financially or affect my my home and my kids and everything I need to provide for. So I try to make very good decisions when I'm buying expensive dolls, and I'm very, very picky. So if I don't love it, it doesn't stay with me. And I've bought, I've had Romy dolls. I've had, I think, 3 or 4 Romy dolls over the last how many years. So I've had my share of really, really top quality, high-end dolls. So to also answer the question of what I prefer, you're looking at her. I much prefer Claire's work over any other silicone artist, and that is just one person's opinion. It's only because I respect Claire as an artist and as a friend, I just think she's fantastic to do business with. I think she's very trustworthy, and that speaks volumes. And so therefore I love her work. And her dolls are very, very ultra realistic. The details she puts in them are like no other, and I've had a lot to compare it to. So I'll probably always forever be a Claire Taylor fan for sure. So there you have it. And no, I don't think that was asking too much to ask that. That's the whole point of asking other collectors what they think. If they've had experience with it, it's great to get their feedback. And I'm always up for answering people's questions, because people, especially newer to it or thinking about diving into the silicone pond, as I say, they need enough information. They need to know who's good out there and maybe who to stay away from. So, okay, on to the second question. Worry about rings and fingernails scratching silicone or damaging it, or them being delicate overall. When you purchase the right doll from the right artist that's made properly, silicone is a very durable. It's a durable material. It can withstand quite a bit of handling. I don't generally wear my rings when I'm in the nursery playing or changing them or holding them, but it wouldn't scare me to wear my rings to hold one of my dolls. I have in the past, and it's not really, I haven't thought anything of it. I don't think that, I'm sure that I've dragged, let's see, probably the one thing that I've dragged the most across the silicone are tags from clothes. So I forget to take a tag off, and those little the plastic holding on the paper tag and everything, those are pretty sharp. I've cut myself on those, actually. I've dragged those across many silicones, and never has it made a mark. Never has it made, it hasn't torn the silicone. Some silicones are going to be more delicate than others, but I'm going to speak on behalf of what I've had experience with. So my Romy Stridum dolls, my most recent was Abigail. She was very durable, so I didn't have any worries or concerns, and I dressed her a lot. Her new mommy dresses her a lot and handles her a lot and loves her a lot, and she hasn't had any problems. All of my Claire Taylor babies never had a problem. I've never had I've handled her too much and have an issue with them type of situation with any of my Claire Taylor dolls ever. And I've had lots, and I've had lots for, extended periods of time and a lot of handling. Because as much as I say that I don't handle them as much and I don't interact with them necessarily off camera, I definitely do change them a lot. So that's the answer to that. I don't think you would have to worry. I think that some people that are newer to it or have had a bad experience tend to be paranoid, and I've had other dolls that were just not made well and they would fall apart literally in front of my eyes. But that was due to a defect. That's bad silicone. A well-made doll, properly made doll, sealed properly, painted properly, will last years. The paint will not rub off. You can't just rub off cured silicone paint if it's done right. Claire's got the niche in that. I don't think that you'll find that any of her AA babies will lose paint. It's there. You have to, like, I think you wouldn't even get it off if you sanded it. But also part of the AA babies is the color of the silicone. So it's not just that they've been painted that color. It's that the silicone is that color, and she has painted details to highlight and bring out the proper details of an AA baby. So that's important. Buying the right doll, you would not have to worry about that at all. I'm not saying that things can't happen if something happens to them, but I'm pretty darn sure that I don't have any concerns that something will happen and I'll scratch or tear them by just handling them. So on to the third question. Do you think that people buy a low quality, low end silicone doll in you're thinking around the $2,000 mark? You're probably right. That's probably right where some of the low end, some might be even $1,800 depending on the artist, that they offer, because they're not done, the details aren't as good. Yeah, I would never be put in that category. I would never buy a doll just to be a silicone doll mom, ever. I am super duper picky. This is probably a better question for other people that have maybe purchased some of the dolls. And I know the artists you're speaking of, because I look at them and I kind of shake my head as well. And I'm kind of like, wow, maybe in person they're much better. But when they come across in videos and photos, sometimes it's kind of like, well, I guess you have to start somewhere. And maybe they do feel like they just would like to have a silicone doll for the feel, not necessarily for the details in the doll. Tough to say. That one for me, for sure, I would never ever just buy a doll just to have it and say I have a silicone doll. My downfall is that I started off collecting immediately. One of my first silicone dolls was from Claire Taylor, and she kind of ruined me for a lot of other artists, because I've even trying other artists, I've decided there's just no comparison for me. And once you start out with the best, it's kind of hard to go back from that. So that's pretty much the answer to your questions. I hope I've answered your questions in a way that makes sense. And by no means do I mean to offend anybody if you disagree with my answers to the questions. It's just, like I said, my very own opinion, nobody else's. That's pretty much how I feel about those questions. So anyways, I'm glad you remembered my name. I was going to do the tag video regardless, because I thought it was a good topic. But yes, I've had a lot of experience with these dolls, and I think that it is a scary concept, because back when I decided to invest in a silicone doll, I was scared to death that I would ruin the doll, disintegrate over time. Any number of crazy questions, like the fact that I'd have to powder them was like, that's too much work for me. So I was very scared to dabble in silicone, but eventually I got there, and I think I'm forever a silicone mommy. I love my silicone babies. I think they're amazing, and I think that Claire Taylor is my most favorite artist. Not to say the others aren't fantastic, because they are. There are many great artists out there. You'd have to see what's to your liking. That's my best advice for you. But definitely don't be afraid of it. The right doll come across your path, and you may find the funds and say, yep, I'm going to do it. So good luck to you if you do, and thank you all for watching, and we will see you all soon. Bye-bye.